How will you measure your life? One day we're all going to look back on our lives and either find that the decisions that we made each and every day align closely with our morals, our beliefs, and the things that we deem most important, or we're going to find that the daily decisions that we made strayed away from those things that we deem most important. And either we're ultimately going to be left with a feeling of happiness and fulfillment, or with a sense of regret and sadness, which sounds extremely scary, I know, but that is exactly what this book is going to help you determine and help you with making the right decisions daily. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Hollenbeck. Welcome back to my channel, and this is a new book series that I'm starting where I'm going to be reviewing each book that I read and supplying you with at least one actionable that I'm going to implement into my own life. And I'm pretty new into the self-improvement book scene, but one thing I do know is that a lot of people, after reading self-improvement books, they immediately put away the book. They don't reflect at all on what they have read. They haven't taken any notes. They just read it, put it away, and never think about it ever again. And that truly is a complete waste of your time. Whether you spent hours or days or months reading a book, if you don't at least sit down and reflect on the things that you've read, maybe try and implement a few of those things into your own life, it provides you with zero return on your investment. And so being new into the scene, I want to be very deliberate about doing this after every single book I read. And I think it'd be very helpful for you guys to see how I'm going to be implementing these things into my own life, and maybe give you some encouragement or ideas to do this in your own lives. So with that being said, the first book I'm going to be talking about is How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christenson. And basically, he is developing theories and strategies to help you build a fulfilling life of meaning and happiness. And I'm going to be discussing many of these theories that he goes over in this book and how they apply to both your career and your own personal life. So how does he accomplish this huge task in his book? Well, he is trying to help us more with the problem of how to think, not what to think. Instead of telling you exactly what you should do when certain problems arise, it's easier to tell you how to think when certain complicated problems come up in your life. And he does this by detailing instances of his theories, both helping companies and also using his theories to explain why certain companies have failed. And it just proves how powerful theories can be, because they can apply to such a wide array of problems. Because it's physically impossible to include every single problem anyone who reads this book is going to be facing in their own lives. Instead, by applying theories that you can apply to a much wider array of problems, it has a much larger impact on a larger number of people. And these theories apply to families and relationships as well, just as much as they do with careers. And it really helps you keep your priorities straight in life and keep the important things in mind. So he gets into the difference between hygiene factors versus motivators. Finding what motivates you in your career is what ultimately brings you happiness. And so we have motivators and we have hygiene factors. Hygiene factors are things such as appropriate pay and a healthy work environment that can really scale your happiness in a job. But motivating factors are things such as challenging work, responsibility, and personal growth that in the end have a much larger impact. Basically, this highlights the difference between a job that pays extremely well but lacks passionate work that you really care about, and a job where maybe the pay is acceptable but you are super passionate about the work you're doing every single day. And many people coming out of college choose a job solely based on the hygiene factors, which it really makes sense because you have probably racked up a lot of student loans, you're in debt, and so what seems important to you then is making the most money you possibly can to get yourself out of debt as fast as you can. And while that makes sense in the short term, in the long term, you won't have those motivating factors to make your job fulfilling, and you're ultimately going to end up unhappy in the position that you're in. And he highlights, interestingly enough to me, how being a manager is actually one of the more fulfilling jobs, because basically for 9 hours a day, your whole purpose is making sure that your employees come into work happy and motivated every single day and leave work with that same feeling, and how that can just put you in a very fulfilling stance to make sure that you provide those motivators for every single person. So this leads me into one of my more favorite references from the entire book, which is planting saplings when you need shade. We often pursue the things in life that give us the more immediate satisfaction, and we push off the things that may not seem very important in the day-to-day operations of our own life. And it may seem that spending more time each day at work, like maybe just an hour extra, won't really affect your relationship with your wife or your kids. But these small adjustments day to day are going to lead to huge issues later on in life. And he details many instances of people who spend lots of time on their careers early on in life and less time with their family. And then after these relationships have completely deteriorated and it's too late to fix them, that's when they need the relationships more than ever. And so that's why it is extremely important to invest even when it doesn't seem necessary. Now, spending time with your kids and raising them based on a good moral foundation consistently may not provide immediate results. However, further down the road, it's going to pay off massively. It's not about the day-to-day satisfaction. It's about down the road when you look back, you're just so happy that you made that investment each day. And this applies to business as well, where companies have to develop their future early on, even when their current business strategy is thriving. And this means that they need to allocate money away from what may be currently successful, and they need to allocate it towards research and development so that when new possibilities rise up, they have an answer. And many times companies put all their focus and resources into what is making them successful now and don't think about what will happen when new products emerge and their current business loses all of its appeal. And by working on these future possibilities early on, it allows a company to more seamlessly transition when that time comes. So let's get into the ivory tower and resource allocation. When developing solutions, it is so important to keep all of your options open and not to just hyper-focus on a single idea or strategy. Oftentimes, the first idea is not what makes a company successful, and it takes many iterations to actually get things right. And so you have to stay nimble and keep exploring different options until a clear winner emerges, and this will ultimately prevent immediate failure. This applies to your career and to life. So don't expect to know how your career in life is going to play out right here now, because that could close off many opportunities down the road. You have to be ready to pivot and find something with the hygiene factors and the motivators. So let's talk about resource allocation. If you want to raise a great family, then you have to allocate your time towards that. That means not spending that extra hour at work. It means spending that extra hour at home with your kids. Where you want to allocate your resources has to align completely with the person you want to become. So this leads me to what is the job that has to be done? And I'm going to be talking about this in more of a relationship aspects. When it comes to relationships, thinking about what job does my spouse need me to do can really help cultivate a more healthy relationship and a better way of thinking about issues. And this helps you determine what your spouse really needs you to do, and it allows you to focus more in those areas. And it's more about what you can do to make your partner happy than what your partner can do for you. And that's what sets unhealthy relationships apart from healthy relationships is a mutual understanding of wanting to do the most they can to make each other happy, and really understanding what each person actually wants, the job that actually has to be done. So this leads us to outsourcing your family. Outsourcing, especially with your own kids, can be extremely dangerous in the long term. You don't want to outsource your future or your kids' future because it yields some short-term benefits. Instead, you want to mold them into the people that you respect and admire. Now, you have to make sure that they are challenged in life and need to make their own decisions. Let them make mistakes, but you have to be there to help them and guide them when they need you the most in life. You have to make sure your kids have taken the right courses throughout life that will help them make difficult decisions later on. And then you have to give them proper experiences and even engineer some experiences when they need to take more specific courses in different areas to make sure that they are fully prepared for anything that life can throw at them. You have to build the culture you want in a family. You have to control the bad and celebrate the good. You have to be consistent and never stray away from this culture, even when it seems inconsequential. You have to make sure you are there to raise your kids and build them up to be the people that you respect and admire. You can't outsource that to someone else. So it's not until the end of the book that Clayton Christenson really talks about his experience with cancer and even him recently having a stroke before writing this book. He actually completely lost his ability to speak and write with his stroke, and yet he was able to regain enough to still write an entire book, which is just mind-boggling. And he did have help writing it, but the fact that he doesn't even talk about this until the end of the book, it just kind of hits you at the very end. And you kind of really just realize his complete selflessness and no excuse mentality in life. And the fact that he's really just all about helping other people, and it's not about himself. And I even watched his TED Talk, and it's very much the same exact thing. It's actually very shortly after his stroke, and he doesn't even once mention it throughout the entire process. And it really, really stood out to me. But this gets into the actionables that I'm going to implement into my own life and my career. And the first one that I really pulled out of the book is that I really have to keep my mind open and stay open to all possibilities. And another thing is that I'm not starting a family for many, many more years. But I think that this is a super important book to go back to my notes, go back to this video when I do want to start a family, because there's so many great nuggets in it to really keep you on track and give you the best things to think about when you're raising your own family. It really gives me a lot of things to implement into my own relationship and to really understand where my partner is coming from and provide myself and my partner with the maximum amount of happiness that we can get. Overall, I really, really, really highly recommend reading this book. I deliberately didn't include any of the specific stories that he talked about in here because I think it's important for you guys to go through and read it yourself. I just wanted to give you more of the general ideas and the theories, and then you can get a little more into the weeds and read a little bit more about the specifics of it. But it gave me so many different things to think about in my own life and kind of just some criteria on how ultimately I'm going to measure my own life. But thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and comment below, and I will see you guys in the next video.